I'm actually feeling halfway decent now because I'm not on chemo, and it's right before I have a treatment week. So I thought I'd at least do one where I don't feel terrible, because it seems like um, every other video I'm kind of either in the middle of it or right after the treatment week. So um, I'm feeling pretty good now, and I just wanted to touch on a couple of things, I guess, before I have my appointment at Duke coming up. So I guess I've gone over some of the medical side effects and that sort of thing, and wanted to touch on the other aspects of not necessarily the side effects, but just how I view things, especially, I guess, spiritually, because I know a lot of people sort of have told me that they don't know how God could do this, or why I think He caused this, or doesn't stop it, or whatever the case is. So I just want to say that I'm not really angry at God. I don't think I ever was. It's one of those things where you can't really reason, logically think of why this has happened. You just kind of have to accept it, and I don't know if it's God challenging me, or the enemy, trying to distract me, or whatever the case is. I guess it could be either, depending on what you believe. But I just think that there's something greater than all this in the grand scheme of things. There's a much bigger purpose and viewpoint, if you will, besides my own experience and perspective. So I don't know what that is, but I've had a few ideas, or I guess metaphors, that I've been able to kind of see. One is squirrels, and two is selective trimming. So I'll expand on that briefly. Squirrels, because I have a squirrel feeder out there, where mounted to a tree is a whole thing of peanuts. I mean, they can have as much as they want. And then below that is a squirrel bungee, which is where you attach a couple of ears of corn to a bungee, and it's kind of fun to watch them, bounce around and try and eat the corn. And then there's also food kind of scattered on the ground, and the squirrels on the ground, they only have to look up, but some just stay on the ground and prefer, to eat the corn or whatever's laying around. And then the next step up is a little bit more difficult, but they get a little bit more as far as reward, if that makes sense. And then all they have to do is look up and go right up to the actual feeder full of peanuts, and then they can get as much as they want. And I think a lot of times we're too busy eating what's left on the ground, I guess spiritually speaking, that we're too focused on our own routine, our own schedule, our own problems, to really look up and see that there's something better up there. And jumping up a couple of inches means that we get something a little better. And then ultimately, the feeder, I guess, represents the overall big plan, or at least that's kind of how I view it. So in a nutshell, that's how I view the whole squirrel metaphor. I know it's cheesy. And then selective pruning is something that I went to a local nursery, and I was, getting some advice on a couple of things. And they were telling me that some bushes kind of get overcrowded and they need something that's called selective pruning. And that's where you kind of take out at the base of the branch healthy branches, and you do this enough and it still keeps the shape, but it lets more sunlight in, and this way the bush will be healthier and it will continue to grow. And in a lot of ways I see that happening in my life, where God is trimming away and pruning me, if that kind of makes sense. I know it might be a little strange, but He's shaping me so that eventually I'll be able to look back and say, all right, this is what He was doing. And it's always difficult to see what He's doing when you're in the middle of it, and it's only when you can look back and see that, oh, that's what He was doing here. I guess an example of that is with my job. I was so worried about keeping my job and performing well and doing all these things, and once I was kind of let go from that job, it enabled me to do something that I was actually passionate about, which is, it doesn't seem like much, but auto detailing, and like I said, the calibration for TVs, because that's something that I've always wanted to do and I've been interested in, and it seems like that is actually going fairly well. Considering my schedule and all the crappy side effects that I've gone over, it's amazing how that worked out. But I know it's difficult, probably for other people too, that something like cancer, you can always go around and wonder why and never really get to the bottom of it. And I can see why that would make some people bitter and cynical. And I have to have the perspective that I'm not going to do that, and I'm just going to keep living life the best way that I know how, and see what happens. So I'll post another update once I find out what Duke says coming up, and the blood work and everything at the local oncologist said that everything looks good, and there aren't any issues as far as he's concerned. So we'll keep you updated after Duke. That's all I got for you. So hopefully it's a little bit shorter and less boring, I guess. So I will talk to you guys later. All right. Again, thank you for all the prayers and support, and just the emails and everything. They're always an encouragement. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.